Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. This is the big return of Wallace and Gromit. It's been since 2008, so it's been a while since they've had something, and their second movie. This is also, I guess, the end of my Wallace and Gromit series, which has been a lot of fun, I gotta say. And this is a real good return to form for the duo. I mean, they're always fairly consistent, but I like this a lot more than the last thing they made, which was A Matter of Loaf and Death. I didn't particularly like as much, and this is really great as a sequel to The Wrong Trousers. Bring back Feathers McGraw, kind of actually going sort of back to the vibe of that original of The Wrong Trousers. It's the first Wallace and Gromit thing that doesn't have Wallace falling in love with some lady and that being like a plot point. Been like, you know, A Close Shave, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and Matter of Life and Death all have Wallace trying to find a love interest. And I kind of liked it without it, you know. I think this movie is dogs over snogs, which is a cool mode for this. Because I like this being more about the gags and the weird plots and stuff like that. And I think that kind of works better, although I'm not 100% sold on this as like being better than Were-Rabbit or the original three shorts or anything. But I still think it is a really solid entry. This movie is about Wallace, as Gromit loves to take care of his garden and plant things in his garden and everything like that. Wallace decides to make him a kind of robot gnome to help him out, which of course Gromit doesn't actually want, but Wallace makes anyway. And he thinks this is so great, he makes an army of gnomes and has them do gardening for everyone around their town, which is called Gnome Improvements. And the gnomes, sort of much like in The Wrong Trousers, sort of taking Gromit's place, and like there's this army of gnomes, and Wallace is super into this gnome thing, and it gives them money, of course, because they always have to have a job. And unfortunately, Feathers McGraw, who's in prison, hears about this because it becomes a big thing. It's in the paper and on the news and stuff, and hacks into a computer from his jail cell and switches the gnomes from good to evil, like literally on the thing, which I love. I do love when cartoons can do a real shorthand for something and you're laughing and like, that's so silly, but that's like kind of points out how silly some of these plots are, honestly, which I thought, I don't know, I like that. Everyone talks about it, that part's funny, but I'm like, I like that animation can just be like, well, just switch them, why not? It's like, you know, you have to figure out ways to get away with these things, and they did. And Feathers McGraw turns the gnomes from good to evil, and the gnomes start doing evil things to the lawns and stealing things, and Wallace and Gromit, of course, have to stop their greatest enemy, Feathers McGraw, again. I think the difference between the movies, since there's now been two of them, so I guess we can notice patterns and stuff, than the shorts, is the movies, there's a much larger cast. Usually, like in Were-Rabbit and in Vengeance Most Fowl, Wallace comes up with an invention or a business and involves multiple people in the town. In the shorts, they don't have too many characters. It was usually Wallace Gromit and then, you know, some lady and her, you know, stuff like that. But in the last one, it was like they were into their gardening thing and their pesto company. And this is Gnome Improvements. Wallace and Gromit never have enough money. They always have to have a job. I like that about all of these. But I like that this one, the gnome thing, at first it was like, is garden gnome humor? Is that still even, do people even care? Is that still funny? All this stuff. Although I do like my in-laws have funny garden gnomes, and I like seeing them, to be honest with you. But one has a machine gun, and I think there's one with Godzilla and stuff. They're fun. But, like, you know, it's been done a lot of times. You know, we live in a post-Romeo and Juliet world, of course. But I actually liked how they did it, because one, it's like an infection that sucks. so which I like that Wallace as an inventor has become more his idea that an inventor that sucks is more relevant than ever. But I think it actually works pretty well. I've heard people say they were scary for kids. I haven't watched this with my kids yet. I wanted to do a review and stuff, and we'll watch it eventually. So it is a very good movie, and I think it reminds me more of Aardman, more like cinephile, silent film loving Aardman, than the other ones. of Wallace and Gromit. It really reminds me of them trying to get back to the wrong trousers. And I know there's been talk of like, oh, Aardman's off or something like that. I think this is an incredibly solid film and a really, really good kind of mystery and thriller. And, you know, it takes on like, there's a part towards the end, the chase at the end. By the way, this is, I'm big into, if you watch these Wallace and Gromit videos, I do care about the chase at the end. And the chase at the end is solid, not as good as Were Rabbit or the first three shorts. I think those are incredible end chase sequences, but pretty damn good. I would say like the motivation and the speed isn't there as much, but there's enough funny gags and they were definitely doing a different thing. I didn't like it as much as the other things, but it was still like, you could tell they weren't trying to do the wrong trousers chase again. I mean, no one will ever do that again, but with the boats and they like make fun of it and they take on the latest Mission Impossible, which was like, Aardman, you're making like modern film references? Hello. From a year ago? Holy shit. Like, what's going on? I've never seen that. That's a new one. I don't know. I didn't check all the references in Farmageddon, but I'm still like, that's, whoa. But it was like, I do think Wallace and Gromit have a thing where like, I think Wallace and Gromit could have done all the missions in Mission Impossible, but I don't think Ethan Hunt could have taken on all the problems in Wallace and Gromit shorts. I don't think he could have. I don't think he would have gotten Cheese from the Moon or all that stuff. But they do play like kind of those thrillers, so I totally get, like, I'm sure the Aardman guys would love the Mission Impossible stuff. You know, it's particularly like would be excited to see the next one with that train. They're gonna love that train thing. Come on. It was fun seeing them take on that. I liked Feathers McGraw being back. I do think, you know, when we talk about these, I should mention Peter Sallis, who's been the voice of Wallace since the beginning, passed away. So they, you know, if they wanted to make more of these, they had to get a new voice actor, and they got Ben Whitehead, who definitely has more energy than Peter Sallis had towards the end. But I think like you wouldn't notice it, to be honest with you. I don't think like most people won't notice, which is incredible. And Peter Sallis was a great actor, and Ben Whitehead is also a great actor. He's being respectful. He's definitely playing Wallace. Like, it doesn't feel like it's a different Wallace or anything, which is pretty amazing, actually. I think he deserves a lot of respect for, you know, maybe not calling attention to himself, because most people will probably just think, you know, the voice of Wallace is the same and wow, that guy's still alive and stuff. But like, that's kind of part of his performance, and I think that's amazing. The two best acting in this, and I'm not joking, is Gromit and Feathers McGraw. And I think we don't talk about like acting through animated characters, but Gromit is like I think I said in the Were Rabbit review, and as I've talked about reviews, people always comment on how much they love Gromit's reactions, and he's Gromit's like the standout actor in every Wallace and Gromit thing, and like I think he was really, really good in this again. Like, he's really good. But Feathers McGraw doesn't emote that much, and you always know what's going on with Feathers McGraw, but it totally works. Like, I think sometimes you have to understand what you're doing with your simple design, and Feathers McGraw definitely does that, because the idea of a silent villain not moving his eyes too much, and Feathers McGraw, he's designed to do that. It's amazing. This sort of reminds me more of what they're doing with Shaun the Sheep. I know the farmer gets a cameo in this, which I liked. I mean, it's the same universe, so makes sense. They should do a crossover or something. I'm sure at some point that will happen. But it reminds me more of the gag-centric Aardman, which I think is the best Aardman stuff. I know they're like almost Rube Goldberg machine perfectionists in some cases. I wish they would get back to it, but this is like listening to a band return to their old style and do it pretty well, and you're like, you know, this isn't exactly that, but close to it, which is a Hollywood thing that I don't love. You know, it's like okay, you made the best Halloween sequel, cool, or you made the best, you know, sequel of this franchise and no one thought you could, and that feels like an accomplishment. And sometimes it doesn't, because you're like, I mean, what are we really doing here? But in this, it like kind of brings it all full circle. You go back to The Wrong Trousers, which is still probably their most acclaimed thing. You're going more towards that energy. You're talking about technology. You're being silly. I think Feathers McGraw is an amazing character and a great villain, and there's a reason we still talk about that thing. And it's funny still doing like what he puts a rubber glove on his head. Everyone thinks he's a chicken. He's an endlessly stupid, funny gag. I love how specifically English Wallace and Gromit are, while also being very cartoony. I don't know. I still think The Wrong Trousers is an insane accomplishment, and I think like them following it up is a smart move, because if I was going to see another one, I would want to see Feathers McGrawback, and I don't think this disappoints at all. Actually, I think it's a really solid film. It reminds me of like the Shaun the Sheep Christmas special or the last two movies and stuff. I do think this might be, we watch Farmageddon a lot, so I don't want to just like throw that away, but I think this is definitely one of their better sequels. Definitely better than that Chicken Run sequel, Jesus. I know I never edited my review. I shot one a long time ago, but this is much more in the better direction, and it's like a fun, great family film. You know, I know this came out on Christmas Day in England. That's why it actually, because they had to deal with the BBC, probably because the ratings of the last one were insane. So I get why the BBC would insist on that. This was the big Christmas movie on the BBC. They also had a Gavin and Stacey reunion special. There's a lot going on English TV. They ended up watching for Christmas Day. That's kind of crazy. The only other person who came back who isn't Wallace and Gromit, which is odd, is Peter Kay, who played the chief inspector, Albert McIntosh. He was the character with Curse of the Were-Rabbit. He comes back in this, which I thought was a nice little touch. This is just like what you like Aardman for. It reminds what you like about them. I know it's been like sort of a bunch of years. It seems like every review of this is like acting like, you know, they weren't as good anymore, but this is, you know, in a much better direction. But I agree with that. It's definitely one of the better things they've done in a while. But I do think the Shaun the Sheep franchise has been really solid this whole time too. You know, the first one is not, I mean, I guess it's like 10 years ago, but it's like one of the great, you know, comedies, especially animated comedies over time. And I like Farmageddon. I like this movie. I think it's, you know, I'm a guy who, you know, is wearing a Buster Keaton shirt and likes silent comedies and like gag cartoon centric stuff. And I think this is one of the best cartoony cartoons we've gotten like this year, you know, and I saw a bunch of them, and I'll probably see Dogman, and I like watching Looney Tunes, but like, this is for real. Like, Wallace and Gromit is a quality brand in the sense that they like make stuff that is good. Like, everything they make, it has a real sense of quality to it. And I think this is like, you know, I was disappointed in the last special to a degree, and I think this like brings it back to where it was before, almost. You know, you could watch this with Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and I think you'd be pretty, you know, satisfied and surprised that the quality stayed around the same level. I kind of look at this as just a little under Curse of the Were-Rabbit in terms of quality. I think it really, you know, and it's just like, it's fun watching these guys like kind of defeat evil and, you know, do all this stuff and have, you know, fun little boat chase at the end and all that stuff. It just like has such a great, wonderful energy to it, and kind of just reminds you what you like about cartoons. But I'm noticing it's reminding people what they like about Aardman, and I think that's like the power of Wallace and Gromit. It's their strongest brand, because, you know, maybe Chicken Run couldn't do that, maybe also because of how bad the movie was, but I think it reminds you of, you know, Nick Park and how great of a director he is, and like kind of coming back and doing the amazing kind of, you know, great pratfalls and quality that Wallace and Gromit have always brought to the big screen, or to any screen. I don't think it's really, but mostly on TV, I guess, and brought to audiences, and like why we love them, and why we love them for not that many things. This is, I guess, the 6th thing of Wallace and Gromit. So yeah. You know, I think that says a lot. When I've been doing this whole series and going to this, is like, there isn't a lot of it, but it's all pretty, you know, satisfactory, and it's pretty cool. Like, they can take all these years and really craft these wonderful, you know, stories of Wallace and Gromit. And I think it's, I don't know, I think it's just a wonderful thing that just continues that great tradition of quality stop motion animation from Wallace and Gromit. And, you know, maybe it's not as good as it once was, but it's certainly a reminder of how good it can be. So if you've seen Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to.